Like cave, gua like, yang gua danau kalau diartiin. Kata sih ada air di dalam guanya ya. Biasanya gua tuh ada air terus kering lagi. Ini sambil menunggu jam turnya sekitar jam 1.20, kita jalan-jalan dulu ke dalam tempat ambil tiket dan tokonya. Thanks, Pak. Thank you. Ini ada berbagai macam souvenir. Lumayan bagus. Ada juga beberapa macam topi. Itu paling bagus kalau dipakai untuk outdoor ya. Hey guys, say hello. Hi. And then ini ada beberapa keterangan tentang bagaimana gua terbentuk. Ini bukan guanya ya, ini hanya sebagai contoh. Itu bukan suara dari gua asli, itu suara dari rekaman di audio sini. Mereka benar-benar bagus membuat contoh guanya, jadi supaya turis tertarik untuk memasukin gua.
Kemilau, also known as the marsupial lion, once roamed Australia, probably went extinct about 50,000 years ago, and they were incredible predators. They used to climb up trees and then jump down onto kangaroos and things like that, so they had a really strong grip. So a really scary animal if you're out in the forest.
And they live alongside the Aboriginal back then?
Probably, yeah. Indigenous people entered Australia around the same period of time, so they may have encountered each other. There's no evidence they ever did, but it's likely they did at some point.
So any possibility why they become extinct?
It's a good question. It's all across the world. Big animals like that went extinct whenever humans entered the area, and that could be because of overhunting. It could have also been, in the case of Indigenous Australians, they started burning the landscape, and that's changed the climate and the vegetation and everything. So it could be a bit of that. It could be a bit of the climate changing as well that wiped them out. So yeah, a few possibilities, but scientists are always debating about that kind of thing.
So basically, what happening in Sumatra right now with the tigers? The population of tigers become less and less because of human populations grow bigger.
As the environment's changing, they lose their habitat and their food source, so it makes it harder for them to survive.
It's a shame. Thank you. Ini semua keterangan tentang binatang-binatang apa aja yang pernah hidup di sekitar sini. Jadi bukan hanya dinosaurus saja ya, tapi ada beberapa binatang yang seperti harimau, walaupun harimau kecil kayak Tasmanian tiger, terus lion, singa, dan juga makhluk-makhluk yang di dalam gua sendiri.
You're going downstairs and your guide is waiting for you halfway down. Just have your entry ticket ready for it.
Kita mulai menurunin bakal ke gua bawah itu. Tentunya melewati jalan ini. No, go ahead, man. It's alright. That's fine. No worries. Cukup luas guanya. Tempatnya memang dirawat rapi ya untuk para pengunjung dan dibuat sangat aman untuk mereka berjalan-jalan. Jalan turunnya cukup curam teman-teman. Untung dipasangin itu yang kuning-kuning itu anti slip, semacam kayak kertas pasir gitu. Jadi ketika orang mau jalan, walaupun hujan masih menggigit kaki-kaki yang melangkahinya.
Or you need anything, just let me know. We'll be with you the whole time. Have you guys all been in a cave before? Okay, piece of cake. Basically, this is the deepest show cave that we have in WA. So we're going 62 metres underground together today. Basically a 7-storey building, but underground. So you've made it halfway down the stairs, you still have half to go, unfortunately. Good news is when you're coming back up these stairs, you can take your time though. Okay, there's no rush, you've got until 5 o'clock to get up to the top. Well, by 5 I'll come down and I'll help you, but fingers crossed you're up by then. So we like to talk about the entrance first of all. is a pretty awesome one. This big hole here, the technical name for one of these is a dolin, but you can just call it a sinkhole. And it's happened over hundreds and hundreds of years because of the trees. So if you look up there, you can see there's trees going right into the edge of the big hole, and underneath all the tree roots is a small hole as well. So when a tree gets thirsty, it buries its way down underground searching for a drink. And then eventually that tree dies and it rots away, but it leaves a tunnel in the rock. And then the rain gets inside that tunnel and it makes it bigger and bigger and bigger, until eventually the rock gets really weak and it actually starts collapsing. Having said that, nothing will collapse today. Okay, we have engineers that come down here to measure everything to make sure it's safe for people, so please don't worry about that. But this stuff hanging off the rock up here is actually the same crystal that you're going to see in the cave. It's called calcite crystal, made up of calcium and carbon, so pretty similar to your teeth really. This stuff is a lot uglier than what you will see down there because it's been exposed to all the rain and the winds and the dirt and the sun. So there's a thick layer of algae all around this crystal. And if you look close, you can see white spots. They are spider webs from a tiny little spider. It's called the microps. It's about a quarter of your fingernail. If you don't like spiders, don't worry, you're probably not going to see one. They're pretty hard to spot, and they are completely harmless. They can't get through your skin like a daddy long legs, so don't worry about those guys. And the other thing I like to point out on the surface is the big trees that we have here. So these big ones are called carry trees, which means multicoloured. They're a type of eucalyptus tree, and they're the third tallest tree in the world. They grow to roughly 85 metres tall from the ground and can bury 60 metres through the rock to drink water. And they actually grow to about 400 years old as well. And we had one that was 400. It was on this big stump here behind me. We nicknamed her Grandma Tree. In 2014, Grandma got a little bit weak and she fell down. You can walk past her in a moment, having a rest there. She is still part of the ecosystem. There's moss growing on top and little fungi, little mushrooms underneath. And if you tap your fist against the tree, you're actually going to hear that it's completely hollow, all the way through the middle down. So it's a perfect little habitat for little creatures that live down here that are called cleansers. They're sort of a combination between a quokka and a mouse. So keep your eye out for one of those. Because it's raining, it might be pretty hard to spot them, but you never know. Now I'm going to get you guys to lead the way down the stairs for me. I'll follow you. You're going to go all the way to a brick platform. When you get to the bricks, please stop and wait for me though, because I have the cave key, so you're not going to get very far without me. Are you guys ready to go a bit deeper?
Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you. Hujan lagi teman-teman. Semoga cepat sampai ke guanya sehingga gimbal ini nggak terlalu banyak menerima kena air gitu. What will come down must go up, huh?
Sorry
Yeah.
about that, guys. That was a bit bad timing there. So, before I take you down to the cave itself, we do like to acknowledge the bush. And there is about 55,000 years of history of those guys being in the bush above us. They are very nomadic people, so wherever they go, they explore the bush very thoroughly, and there's every chance they stumbled across this big hole up here before we did. But we have no evidence they actually ever went down into Lake Cave, possibly because they didn't have the handy stairs. You can imagine without those it's hard to get down here. They have used other caves in the area. There's Mammoth Cave, which is 5 minutes from here, or there is Nilgi Cave, which is up near Dunsborough. At Nilgi Cave they talk all about the Indigenous Australians and how they've used caves throughout time. They use them for all sorts of things: campfires, burial grounds, nursing young children, all sorts of stuff. But I won't really talk about it at this one here today. The European discovery, on the other hand, occurred in 1867 by a very unlikely girl. She was actually 16 years old at the time. Her name was Frances Bustle. So if you've been to Bustleton or you've gone down Bustle Highway, that's her family. Very big family. She was one of 16 children, and they had a huge cattle ranch down here. And one day she was out on her horse looking for some lost cows for her family when her horse came to a sudden stop. She couldn't get it to move in the bush. And she looked down for snakes, but she couldn't see anything, so she jumped off her horse. And then she walked a few paces forward and she found herself right on the edge up there.
Oh.
It is roughly 50 metres from the surface to where we are now. It's quite a big drop, so she was really lucky that she had her horse. Sometimes animals are a little bit smarter than us. They have a bit of a sixth sense, and we never get animals falling down into these sinkholes. So she jumped back on her horse and she rushed home to tell everyone what she'd found. But the problem was, young silly Frances forgot to mark where it was. And there was a lot more bush back then. So it took 30 years for the first men to relocate this sinkhole, plan how they were going to climb down all this rock, and eventually find the opening to this cave. The very first man down into Lake Cave was named Tim Connolly. Huge caving legend. He's kind of like our Indiana Jones. He's discovered a lot of the caves around the area, and he opened this cave to the public in 1901. He guided here for 34 years, so he loved being underground. But if you ask me, Tim was a little bit crazy. Went down lots of deep dark tunnels with no idea what was at the bottom of them, including this cave here. This entrance we're about to take, it actually didn't exist. Okay guys, I won't shine the torch right in your eyes. So this entrance here we can see people coming out of, we'll go down there in a moment, but it actually didn't exist for Tim. This was blocked off by a whole lot of rocks. So Tim had to go over this big rock, called Titanic Rock, looks like a sinking ship. You can see wherever I'm shining my torch, it's glowing nice and green. That's years and years of algae that's built up on the surface of the rock. This rock was once part of the sinkhole, part of the wall, but because of the water it slid down and made a perfect entrance into the cave. So Tim had a rope tied around his waist and he abseiled down over Titanic here and through this entrance just up here. But back then the tunnel into the cave was a lot more confined. Tim was scraping his shoulders as he made his way down through the tunnel. And when he got down into the cave, it's a lot different to what you guys will see. There are obviously no fancy lights waiting for Tim, and without those lights, it is pitch black. In fact, because it was 1897, no torch for Tim either. The only light he had was one little candle. And then to top it all off, he landed in chest-deep cold water. The lake was a lot deeper back then. So when we're going down the next two staircases, I want you to picture what it was like for him. Imagine going down that tunnel, scraping your way through wet rocks, to land in water up to your chest in complete darkness, with no idea how deep the water's going to get, or how stable the rock is around. A little bit crazy, like I said. But we've got it easier, I promise. There's lights the whole way. We do have 2 more staircases, and on the second staircase I'm going to use my key to open a big metal gate. Whoever is last through that gate into the cave just needs to shut the gate behind them. You don't need to lock it or anything, just pull it closed as you come through. And then after the gate, unfortunately there are 2 rocks we can't move. We call them Headache Rock and Splitting Headache Rock. So this is the only time you're going to have to bend to fit into the cave. After that it's nice and easy and open the whole way. Are you guys all ready to go down underground? Did you have fun? Yes. Yeah, that's good.
How many steps you got to Angie? Are you counting the steps?
No, I'm skipping it.
When we're down in the cave itself, there are a couple of rules. First and most important rule is that we don't touch the crystal while we're down. You could turn the crystal a brown colour and you could stop it from growing. So really important to don't touch. Second rule is no eating. We're only down for about 45 minutes. You're not going to starve to death. I promise I'll bring you back up. I've never left anyone down in the cave. And third final rule is drinking plain water is okay, but no coffee is okay. That's clear on those cave rules? Doing well.
Already did my
Steps for the day. Is that all the wine and all the cheese?
yes, so much, yes.
Whenever you're ready, you can follow me down. Have you too?
Nice. Inilah yang namanya turun duluan. Nanti nanjaknya lumayan ini. Itu yang aku senter tuh warna-warna hijau itu adalah lumut-lumut. Kalau mati senter seperti biasa warnanya. Mari kita masukin ke gua. Awas kepala. Nah, orang Indonesia sih pendek-pendek, bukan kayak bule. Tinggi-tinggi. Nunduk.
So welcome to Lake Cave, everyone. We are 62 metres underground now. So 62 metres of limestone rock is sitting on top of us. And this rock is not just in one spot, it actually runs for 110 kilometres. So all the way up near Dunsborough, all the way down to Augusta. It's known as the Lewin Naturalist Ridge, which is a huge mouthful. But basically what it means is when you're driving along on Caves Road, there's a reason it's called Caves Road. You're driving over 120 different discovered caves now. So 120 caves we've actually been into. There could be thousands that we haven't found down here yet. It's pretty cool to think about, especially on all those long drives between all the wineries. There's plenty of good stuff happening underneath you. And this cave is special to us, not only because it's a deep cave, but it's also a very active cave. If you listen, you can hear some dripping. That dripping is 10-month-old rain. So 10 months ago rain happened on the surface, and then it took all those months to get through the rock to where we are now. If it hasn't dripped on you already, it probably will. Please don't worry, it's completely clean drinking water, and we actually consider it pretty good luck. So rub it in and buy yourselves a lottery ticket. Because of all the dripping though, it does get a little bit slippery in the cave. So as we're walking through, we just need to be mindful where we're stepping as we go. Photos are fine, flash is fine, but again, just no leaning over the lake with your cameras, because I really don't want to have to jump in that water today. It's going to be pretty cold. Okay, whenever you're ready, we're going to start walking through the cave. You can follow me.
Itu teman-teman masih ada apa? Air netes-netes. Itu katanya 10 bulan hujan dari atas baru sampai sini. Ini makanya disebut Lake Cave karena masih banyak air di dalamnya. That's okay.
We call Lake Cave because of this water, but this isn't actually a lake. This is part of a huge underground stream. This water actually moves all the way back where we came from in the direction of the ocean. It flows through the limestone rock all the way to a place called Conto's Beach. When you were driving here, you might have seen a sign that said Conto's Campground. The beach isn't very far from there. So all this crystal clean drinking water that's sitting in the cave, it's eventually going to end up in the ocean. Now you could lean down and have a sip if you got thirsty, but we ask that you don't, because we're trying really, really hard to keep this water here. If I shine my torch over this way, you can see a line against the rock there. That shows the water level for decades. But slowly, millimetre by millimetre, this water's disappearing. We did put some black plastic in the cave. We didn't want to, but it was the least invasive way we could think of to keep the water here. And we're not only keeping it here because it looks good. Okay, all the disco lights on the ceiling, all those pretty reflections. It's not just for you to enjoy, it's actually serving a purpose. This water is a habitat. There are 6 different species of animals that live inside of it. They're called stygnofauna, which again is a bit of a mouthful. Lots of fancy words in caving. But if you imagine a tiny little white prawn or a little sea monkey, you're pretty close to what those animals look like. When they first studied this water in the early 2000s, they found 23 different species, but now we only have 6. So we're trying really, really hard to keep those little animals alive down here. It's a bit of a trick with the lights. Everyone leans down looking to find one, but you won't be able to see any because they're microscopic, so they're way too small for us to notice. But there is also one big cave creature. If you use your imagination, you'll be able to see him. Just up here, we've got our cave dragon. Big head staring at us there. Don't know if you guys like Game of Thrones. If you like Star Wars, I call this one Jabba the Hutt. Or some people see a Shih Tzu poodle, maybe a sphinx. It's completely up to you. The cool thing about this crystal is that it's actually hovering mid-air. Can you see that? That's because of the water. When the stream got into this cave, it actually took the floor of the cave away. It took all the hard rock and crystal from underneath some of these formations, and then it left them hanging from the ceiling. And this one I'm shining my torch on now is the most famous part of the cave. This is called the suspended table, and it's the only one in existence in the world. It is one of a kind. If I shine my torch underneath it, you can see there's no tricks. There's no fishing line, it's simply hanging there.
It is
and
true.
that table, it weighs roughly 2.3 tonnes. It's pretty heavy stuff, this crystal. But the solution for it is kind of like cement. Everything up on the ceiling here, it'll hang here for hundreds of thousands of years. The only time this crystal breaks is when people touch it. Even through earthquakes, nothing has moved a millimetre in this cave. We had an earthquake about 11 months ago, and I was lying in my bed in Margaret River and I felt it. It woke me up. Not a big one, just a low magnitude one. But we all rushed down here the next day panicking, going, oh no, everything's ruined, the cave's collapsed, I'm out of a job. But nothing had moved at all, not even a millimetre in the cave. And people must be hungry when they're coming down into our caves because everything gets named after food. And this big guy up here next to me, we got called the celery stick. Now he was once a huge column, so this top bit and this bottom bit were together, but you can see he's broken. That's because of the water as well. If I shine my torch down this side, you can see there's water on this side of the platform as well. Not much anymore, but it was once a lot more. And when that water travelled through, it moved all this rock towards me, and he snapped away. Now if you look on the inside of the snap, you can see some tiny crystals that are growing inside. They're called straw crystals. And the reason I'm pointing them out is because of how old they are. Straws grow roughly 7 millimetres every 10 years. So if you come back down here in 200 or 300 years, it's going to be really hard to notice a difference. In fact, everything around you here is dated to roughly 1 million years old. Alright, we are going to go around the corner, but it does get a little bit more slippery, so just watch your step as you follow me, whenever you're ready.
True. All right.
So whenever you come into a cave, the best place to look is always up. Up here we have hundreds and hundreds of those crystal straws I was just talking about. So they're hollow in the middle like a drinking straw, and that water travels through the tiny little centre and then it will hang there and turn into crystal. But if it doesn't hang for long enough, it will fall to the ground and then it will start building crystal on the floor. You can see there's crystal on the concrete. Trying to grow here despite all the odds, despite people walking here every single day. And then there is one little crystal that grows a lot faster than the rest. Just up here. You guys can come a little bit closer for that so you can have a good look. Does everyone see that one that's dripping a bit faster than the rest? He does that year round, he never stops dripping. And because he's dripping so fast, he creates a big fountain of crystal down here. So all this fresh crystal is created drip by drip over time. The solution will come down over the top and all these little pools of water get captured along the way. They're called rimstone pools. And one big one over here is what we call the wishing well. You guys can come right up and have a good look if you'd like to. Little pool of water sitting in the crystal. The little round ones inside that look like popcorn or cauliflower, they're called cave pearls. They're very rare, they only form underwater like that. And then my favourite formation in the entire cave is actually over behind you. Hanging on the ceiling up here, we call it the shark fin. And it's basically a big thin sheet of crystal that splits up layer by layer over time. So what happens is the solution will flow down the curve of this cave wall and it will start to layer on top of itself. When you get underneath that one in a moment, have a good look up and you can see just how thin it really is. It's almost like paper hanging above you. So I'll get you guys to lead the way to the back of the cave and I'll follow you. I'll light the way. Just have a look at that one. Yeah, that's fine. down here in 1897, the water was a centimetre below that table. We were wading through knee-deep mud and chest-deep water. Right, the next one is a bit of a fun one. I'm going to light up the cave dragon for us. A little bit of a better view from the side. I have asked for a smoke machine, but it's not going to happen. And he is a fire-breathing dragon, this one. It's lovely. Now, Lake Cave is actually the only cave we have left in the southwest with this year-round water sitting in it. So it's the only one where you can come and see those beautiful reflections at any time of year. Known as the pretty cave because of them. Now, the next thing I'm going to do can be a little bit uncomfortable or scary for some people. What I do is I turn off all the lights. I'm going to take us into cave darkness. Now that sounds really spooky, but it doesn't last long, and it's actually a really good experience. It'll show you exactly what it's like in this cave when we're not here. If you don't like the dark though, what I recommend you do is look right down the other end of the cave. When the lights are off, you might be able to see a tiny bit of blue. That is some natural sunlight that escapes down the staircase into the cave. But other than that tiny bit of blue, it is going to be pretty dark in here, so it's really important that when I have the lights off, no one gets up and goes for a swim. Okay, please stay seated where you are. If at any point you do want the lights on, just say lights on. I've got my torch right here. Are you guys all ready for a little bit of darkness?
Yep.
Yeah? Alright, awesome. Okay, it's gradually going to get darker in here. I'm going to stay nice and quiet so you can really soak it up. Very mature group. So we do that for two reasons. First of all, to show you what it's like naturally in caves. They are very deep, dark places. But also so you can picture what it was like for the first men that came down. Imagine coming down into that sort of darkness with one big candle. If your candle goes out, it's pretty hard to find your way back to the surface, and it's a long time before anyone comes down to find you. So we owe a lot to the first explorers. There are a few more lights for us. This next one is going to light up the shark fin that we all walked underneath together. And if I shine my torch up at the ceiling, you can see there's lots of little shark fins that are starting to build up to look a lot like the big one. But that big one there is at least a few 100,000 years old. And it's about 2 to 4 millimetres in thickness. So if we walked up there and we flicked it with our fingers, there is every chance it would shatter straight away. So hundreds of thousands of years of history could be gone in a second if we touch it. It's so, so fragile. The next light is actually my favourite light. It's going to happen right down the other end of the cave where we came in. So you can see that beautiful silhouette of the table in the water. Like I said, one of a kind in the world. Now, even though Lake Cave is one of our deepest caves, it's actually one of our smallest caves. If you do want to go on a bit more of an adventure, I recommend going to Jewel Cave next. Jewel Cave runs for nearly 3 kilometres in all different directions underground. So you get to go through plenty of tunnels into huge caverns. But the good thing about the tour here at Lake Cave is you guys have seen the whole cave on the tour. There are no hidden tunnels anywhere else. You get to see everything right in front of you all at once. Now I can light up that table one more time in case you didn't get a photo so you can light. Does anyone in the group have any questions? Is there anything you've sort of been thinking about that I haven't talked about or mentioned? Good question. Ultimate question. So basically the water's slowly slowly disappearing. So it's loss of habitat is the main reason, but also loss of food. So the water's slowly going down, and scientists won't agree on why it's disappearing. So a lot of them blame climate change. Some just blame the local human activity, so it'll be agriculture. But also others say it's natural and it's a cycle where the water will go down over hundreds of years and then rise over hundreds of years again. But basically what's happening is with the water reduction, they've got less space to move around in the cave. And then also there used to be a lot of rotting material, like tree roots and things coming through rock into the cave. And those little animals would eat that rotting material. But now there's less vegetation on the surface, there's less getting down into the cave, so there's less things to eat, unfortunately. But yeah, very good question. It could be a number of different things. It could be down to fire patterns up above, rainfall changes, all sorts of stuff, unfortunately. Really hard to think. That's why we're fighting so hard to keep them there without plastic. That's the best option we can think of. So what I'll do now is I'll light up the whole cave for us, so the guys can get brighter in here. If you do think of any other questions as we're walking back through the cave, please feel free to ask me. I'm more than happy to answer any questions that you've got. What I can do now is I can actually leave you at the back of the cave here for a couple of minutes, just so you can really soak it up and take as many photos as you like. And then whenever you're ready, you can walk up to meet me. I'll stand at that little platform that we sort of stick past all the way, and I'll shine my torch down a beautiful part of the cave where the crystals is undamaged. So it's white like stone, and it will really sparkle for you. So whenever you're ready, you can come up and meet me there and have a look. And then we'll slowly start making our way back through the cave. But there is no rush. You can enjoy it so much while you're down here. And thank you for coming. I hope you enjoyed that tour.
Thank you.
No worries. Whenever you guys are ready, everything behind me, all the brown you see, was actually like this at the start when we first came down. And up here we've got a cave kangaroo emu. See the shape? Yeah, that's cool. Two guys on the couch staring at him. Those are two guys just have to see us. So that's what the whole cave would have been like at one point. Might be better without my torch.
Yep, that's
If you look down here, we've got chocolate ice cream and we've got vanilla.
Is it edible?
No. On the vanilla scoop though, that little brown mark,
Okay.
that's a fingerprint.
Oh, yep.
So someone's pressed their finger and now that will be there forever. So all here, this is, so he drips into the top of this one and then it flows down and all these little pools of water. And then this one is called the wishing well, this bigger pool here.
All right. Nah, inilah teman-teman yang tadi katanya habis turun terbitlah tanjakan. Ini nanjak terus sampai ke atas. Turunnya enak dan awas kepala. Sangat sempit di sini. Mungkin mundur dikit. Bayangin dari kegelapan gua kita menuju jalan keluarnya gua. It's a nice place in Margaret River. Everybody, you know,
You're travelling from
so
Perth,
friendly.
or?
From Perth, I woke up north, and this is my week off.
Oh, nice.
And then I give him a call. Right, I got nowhere to go. I can't go to Melbourne. I can't go to Indonesia. Otherwise, I'm going to get stuck here.
enjoy the rest of your time.
Thank you.
I hope work goes.
Ini decking untuk melihat segala sesuatunya dari ketinggian, termasuk tadi ke gua yang di bawah. Nampaknya dari luar sih nggak begitu dalam ya, tapi begitu dijalanin ke dalamnya lumayan ketinggiannya. Itu katanya kedalamannya 80 meter di bawah permukaan tanah. Itu adalah lantai kacanya, teman-teman. Nampak di bawah? Nampak? Nggak nampak ada cahaya matahari sih. Jadi nggak begitu kelihatan bawah, dasar bawahnya.